Today we're going to take these raw aluminum grips from this to engraved and show the polishing and finishing process that'll turn them into a beautiful chrome appearance. So I like to begin with using Birchwood KC aluminum black. This can be purchased at most sporting goods stores or on Amazon for roughly $20 to $25 a bottle, I believe. So as you can see, I'm filling up a small medicine cup with roughly, I would say that's about 15 milliliters. And prior to bluing, I'm going to go ahead and scrub this grip down to remove all that extra little powder that may be left behind from the laser process. I'll use a simple little cotton applicator. You can use a t-shirt or anything that will help soak up that bluing and just reapply it to the grip. So you'll notice I'm going back and forth, small circles, big circles, kind of every which direction you can think of. And the reason I do that is to make sure that I get good coverage of this bluing on this aluminum grip. So now I'll let this bluing sit for roughly 1 to 2 minutes. And if you're watching this on a computer screen, you may be able to see the actual oxidation taking place and notice that coloration set in. Next thing I'll do is just go ahead and rinse it off in some cold water. Now you can obviously do this under a faucet, but for me it's just easiest to have a bucket of water sitting. I'm going to take a dry rag, and you'll notice that I dab it rather than rub, and the reason being is because I don't want to get cotton fiber stuck up in the grip, and so instead of rubbing, the dabbing helps to just dry it off as much as I need. And next I'll go ahead and reapply bluing. Again, going back and forth, up and down, circles, every kind of direction you can think of, just to make sure that I get a good full coverage of this bluing. And after it's sat for a minute, you can notice it's starting to look rusted. And again, you may be able to see those bubbles popping. It's a very cool process to see. And you'll know that it's ready to go once it looks, without a, with a lack of words, other words, it looks dirty. So I'm going to rinse it off. And again, I'll do this for about 4 to 6 cycles. Each cycle, you're going to notice it gets more and more dark. Now, the goal here is to blue the recessed areas of these grips so that whenever I polish them and sand them, there's a contrast there. So although I could spend hours on hours doing this, it's only necessary to do this for about 4 to 6 cycles until you get this grip, or the recessed areas of this grip, as dark as you want them. So here I'm paying special attention to the borders of the grip, and then especially the larger recessed areas, like around the star of this. Again, if we kind of zoom in here, you may be able to see the oxidation process. See that bubbling? Very cool to see. Again, this is Birchwood KC aluminum black. I'll drop a link for the Amazon link. And lastly, we're going to rinse it off one more time. Just dab it up to dry it. And it's looking nice and beautiful. We've got that black inlay that's going to really pop whenever we get down to sanding. So next we're going to start off with sandpaper. These are just general numbers. I've got 220 grit, 320 grit, 400 grit, 600 grit, 1000 grit, 1200 grit, 1500 grit, 2000 grit, and 3000 grit. So sandpapers will come in various numbers. It doesn't have to be the exact numbers that I've just read out loud here. But if you ballpark it, you're going to get a pretty good finish and something similar to what I'm doing. So you'll notice here starting out that I'm not really spending too much time on a specific area of these grips. All I'm doing is trying to remove the majority of that bluing that lays on the surface of these raised areas. Now here in a second, you'll notice that I add something to the sanding process that may not be very common, which is a eraser. So I'm going to wrap my sandpaper up in this on this eraser. And the reason I like using these erasers is because it's going to get a more uniform sanding, especially in hard to reach area where there may be a little notch, as in the case with the 1911 grips. You've got a small notch for the magazine release, and also for the back for one of the pins that goes in the grips, or in the frame rather. And so it's also easy to use it to get a nice uniform sanding across the top, sides, and the bottom. So in total, I spent about 14 minutes sanding. Now again, there is other ways to do this. I'm not saying that my method is the correct method or the best method, but it's a method that works for me. You can obviously use tools to make it quicker, but I feel like whenever you utilize tools, you always risk high spots and low spots. And so you may get a grip that may not be to your liking. So as we go through these different grits, progressing from the lowest to the highest, we'll spend some time really looking at it up close to make sure that we're not having some undesirable lines left behind. And so you'll notice me picking it up, really paying attention, rinsing them often to make sure that we're having a good finish. Next, I'm going to use Mother's Mag and Aluminum Polish. This can be picked up at any auto parts store. I want to say it's typically $10 to $15 for a tub of it, and it'll last you quite a while. Now you'll notice me rubbing this stuff down pretty heavily. It's not necessary to put as much as you're seeing in this video for the sake of not having to reapply for the video. I put more than enough. It's not going to hurt to put too much, but it may make it a little harder to get the finish as quickly as you want. So here I'm just going to go ahead and kiss that buffer wheel, not really putting a whole bunch of pressure on that grip. And it still looks dirty, but once you use a dry, clean rag, you're going to notice that the camera actually has difficulty recording because this thing is going to get so shiny. So again, I'm just going to rub all that excess off. And you can see it getting super, super shiny. And here in a bit, we'll move to some natural lighting. Right now, I'm under a shop light that's LED. And so it's almost impossible to see because of the glare. So now when we move to the next step, which is going to be Barricade by Birchwood Casey. This is a rust preventative, works great for steel and other metals. I like using it because it really brings out that black in the grips. So I'll wipe away the excess and move to natural lighting. And these grips are looking beautiful under natural lighting. These are going to be installed on a Kimber 1911 that from the factory has some black accents, and it's going to really complement the overall look. I thank you all for taking the time to watch this. If you want to see more content like this, drop a comment, let me know what you want to see. And again, thanks for watching.